Thank you for being here. Let's start off fresh. My name is Sean. If you're here for the evidence show, then you're in the right spot. And we're going to talk today about something that, we have actually talked about before. I didn't think we had done an episode about our eHealth check, but we had. So we're going to do another one because I don't think that a lot of you, I mean, we got a lot of new people coming in. We've got almost 900 people that subscribe. Different levels and different numbers of people are here on any given month, but a lot of people catch it after the fact online as well. But one of the things that as we travel and as we do classes across the country that we're finding is that a lot of people don't understand what we mean when we talk about an e-health check or exactly what it is. So we want to discuss that with you here today as a captive audience and talk about how that can be used to help you out. But before that, I want to point you to a couple of different things that we do here. Uh, the Evidence Management Community Forum on Facebook. This is a great resource, especially if you're working in an area where you're kind of isolated, uh, or if you're not. Doesn't matter. It's a community of evidence custodians that deal with the same issues that you deal with on a daily basis. And this is a great place to connect, to ask questions, to find resources, to find solutions to problems that you might not have at your fingertips, especially if you work in a small operation where you don't have a lot of people or you don't have a lot of connections in your immediate geographical region. This is a great place to connect with other evidence custodians and find answers to the questions that you may have. Or if you got answers, it's a great place to share your knowledge and expertise and help people out that need help. uh, the goal here is community. That's what we're trying to build. And that's one place where you can find it on the Evidence Management Community Forum. So, also want to point out as we go that this is possible because of our partnership with Tracker Products. We've done a lot of new and fun things with Tracker in the last few months, including rolling out some training across the country at no cost to the participant or the agency. Tracker has made that possible. They create and make evidence management software. If you're in need of automation service, or not service, automation for your property room, in terms of the database that you use and the way that you manage your different workflows, go see Tracker Products at trackerproducts.com. They would be happy to talk to you. We are at evidencemanagement.com. In fact, one of the things, or the thing that we're talking about today, is on our website, and it's a free service that we provide to evidence custodians and evidence units around the country at no cost. But we want to kind of explain to you how to use it and maybe show you a little bit so that it will you can leverage as much as you possibly can out of that tool and use it to your advantage. So that's what we're talking about today. It's time for a checkup. We want to talk about how you can use our resource online, the eHealth Check, as a first step towards a healthier evidence environment. But before we do all that, we want to do some announcements, talk about some training dates. We just got finished with the first few California classes that we're doing. So, if James, I don't know if you're working or if you're on, but thanks for your help and thanks to the folks in California for hosting us. We were at Folsom, California, for a training class. Beautiful up there, and in Paso Robles, California. So we kind of hit the northern part of the state. If you're familiar with California geography, which I am not. Uh, and then the Central Coast region. It's a beautiful part of the state. I'm in Texas. Yesterday it was 109 degrees and humid. Uh, so it was nice to be in California where you could drive 10 minutes from Paso Robles down to the coast, and you go from about 90 degrees and no humidity to 60 degrees. It was amazing. And the training was good too, and met a lot of people there. So that was fun. But we're going to talk about healthy evidence operations and how you can leverage a self-assessment that we provide at no cost to help you get to that healthy evidence operation at your agency. But before that, I want to talk about some remaining training dates. We're going to be in Cincinnati, Ohio, or in the Cincinnati area in August from the 16th to the 17th. We got a 2-day class there. We'll be back in California, down on Coronado Island, just near San Diego. We're going to do a basic class there on the 22nd and 23rd, but we're also doing a new class, an advanced an advanced officer workshop class. That's going to be a 2-day training. Also, same location right there on Coronado Island in California. Uh, I think it's a beautiful place, a beautiful facility. I think it's going to be a good class and a new neat experience. We're also really excited. We've added a date, and 2022. We kind of built the schedule slowly and intentionally. Next year, we hope to get to more places. I've heard from a lot of folks around the country uh, that want us to host a class. We haven't finished our 2023 calendar yet, but one thing that we did add to the 2022 calendar is another date on the West Coast in Eugene, Oregon. So we're excited about that. We're actually partnering with the Oregon Association of Property Evidence Officers, and I think it's I can't do the acronym, but really excited about that because we love partnering with state associations whenever we can. I mean, state associations, if you're not a member, uh, please join one. If you're in a state where there is one, join it today. If you're not, think about forming your own, and we can help you with that. Just reach out to us. But we're really excited to be in the Oregon area in September. It'll still be 100 degrees here in Texas. I'm hoping it won't be in Eugene, Oregon. So we're excited about that. And then also in September, we're going to be in the Atlanta area, more specifically in Cobb County, Georgia, the September 21st and 22nd to do more training. So if you haven't caught one of our classes live, we do these 2-day certification classes that are at no cost to the participant, no cost to the agency. And that is possible because we have industry sponsors. In this case, Tracker Products is sponsoring these trainings. So you and your agency don't have to bear the cost of that. So one of the things we've kind of found out over time is that a lot of police agencies just don't have training resources that they're willing to spend, or they don't have it to begin with for evidence custodians. So we decided, hey, let's cut that problem out at the onset. So we're excited about training. Sign up for our Eugene class. That should be on our website by the end of today. We've already got locations and dates. We just don't have it up on the website. We might at this time, but by the end of business today, it should be there. So let's talk about what we're here to talk about. Healthy evidence operations. If you've been to one of our training classes, this is a concept that we flesh out in class and really kind of define. But if you want to know if you're in a healthy evidence operation or not, I use 3 words over and over: sustainable, efficient, and effective. If that characterizes your agency, then you might be a sustainable evidence operation. Sustainable operations are resourced appropriately. They're staffed appropriately. They have appropriate financial resources, technology resources. They're housed in a suitable storage. They're provided with a suitable storage facility. It's secure. It's safe. It's temperature controlled. It's an appropriate environment for your evidence. There's a balance in a healthy environment between intake and disposition. Healthy, sustainable operations bring in evidence and dispose of evidence at a sustainable rate so that we don't just continue to pile up inventory and run out of space. Healthy operations are also characterized by adequate policies and procedures. So if you have great policy and procedure, that's a great sign for healthy evidence operations. Another characteristic is chain of custody. The chain of custody record and the chain of custody documentation that sustainable, healthy operations produce is dependable. It's solid. It's true. It's reflected of reality, and it is unbroken. We can talk more about chain of custody in another show, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. Uh, and in a healthy evidence operation, everybody's needs are met. Officers who enter and submit evidence, it's easy for them to do that. Evidence custodians, evidence technicians, it's easier for them to manage evidence and appropriately take care of evidence. And prosecuting attorneys, district attorneys, defense attorneys, all the other stakeholders in the process, victims of crime, investigators, In a healthy operation, it works for everybody. For citizens who have lost property, it works for them. It works for everybody in the system. And finally, accountability measures. So, those are some of the symptoms of a healthy environment. How do you know if you're not in a healthy evidence environment? How do you know when you're not healthy? Now, me personally, we're going to use a little metaphor of personal health. I know when I'm unhealthy when I just don't feel well. Sometimes I don't know when I don't feel well. Sometimes it's not even really, I don't even notice it when I'm not feeling well. So it's difficult for some of us to even know that we're in a situation that isn't healthy, especially in a vault when you're in there every day and you see the same things over and over and over again. It's really difficult sometimes to know. So if you don't even know that you're not healthy, if you don't even know that there are issues that need to be addressed, it's really difficult to solve the problem if you don't know what the problem is. And not only is it hard to solve the problem, you can't even diagnose the problem. It's like going to the doctor and feeling just kind of bad, but you don't know and you can't diagnose what's wrong. You can't tell them specifically what your symptoms are, or at least you can't communicate those symptoms to your doctor in a way that they understand. And that actually happens throughout the healthcare system. People just aren't able to communicate what is wrong or what's going on, and their doctors aren't able to effectively treat them. It's the same way with upper level management and an evidence operation. If we can't really properly diagnose the problem, if we can't communicate the symptoms of the problem up the chain, then it's really difficult for anyone to help us solve that problem, much less find a cure. So that's what we're about. And that's why we created the eHealth check. I think in our little marketing thing that we sent out this week, it's kind of like WebMD. And what we want you to do is use this resource to help you diagnose correctly and accurately some of the problems and define some of the symptoms so that you can start searching for a solution. If you have questions as we go, please type them into the window. Would love to come to Oklahoma. Just saw a question there. And actually, we have a lot of folks in the state of Oklahoma. This is a total rabbit trail that are interested in forming a state association in Oklahoma. So if that's you, contact us. We'll talk more about that. I realize that had nothing to do with what we were talking about, but let's talk about the eHealth check, and I'll show you how to access it and how to actually run through the whole thing. Um, the eHealth check is a self-assessment report. Yeah, it's offered. Again, it's no cost to you or your agency. It's an online tool. It's a user driven kind of tool that will put some data in your hands and produce a report that you can use at your agency to help solve your problems. It is intended to be a baseline, a really quick snapshot in time at your operations, and it will give you some insight into how you stand as an evidence operation and things that you can do. It will make recommendations for you and your agency to put into place to start resolving or correcting some of those issues or deficiencies. So let me move forward. I'm going to try something new here. I'm going to try to walk you through a magic little video that we've loaded up. Let's try this here. I'm going to hit play. And if you can't see anything, if this just turns into utter garbage, we'll just quit, cry, and go home. Okay, sorry about all that. My sound is off. Yeah, no sound, no sound, no sound, no sound, no sound. I can't hear you now. Yeah, that was because I apparently when you watch a video, it mutes the sound. So I don't think I can go back. So this is just a fun little thing. But basically, we'll walk through this is the eHealth check. And what we're doing is showing you a video of the different steps that it takes to go through the eHealth check. The first couple of screens, I'm not sure which one this is. Yeah, this is screen number 3. We ask you for a little demographic information, and then we ask you some very simple questions about your evidence operation. Questions that are usually answerable by an evidence custodian. This is not something that you would be able to walk through if you have no idea of what goes on in your evidence vault or anything about your operations. This is something that you really need to be a line level evidence custodian or evidence technician in order to really make the most use out of this. Some of these questions are subjective. Some of them are not measurables. Like, does your agency have full support from your executive level leadership? Um, that's going to be a subjective opinion because it is not measurable. Sound is back up. Uh, we're going to walk through it. It's going to ask a couple of questions. How many full-time personnel do you have? You can use zero point 0.5 if you've got half of a full-time position. And hopefully you can hear me now. There are little sliders. Now that particular section right there, and I'm probably going to mute myself again, but we're trying to capture here part-time personnel and also the the percentage of time that you spend doing evidence management work. And that's important because many of us are a single shop. We're the one person at our agency who is responsible for evidence custody, but that's only 20% of our duties. So we're trying to capture that to give you a real time idea of exactly how much time you have to deal with evidence issues. We run through a few things like rotations of assignments. Those are important factors and important pieces of information. And that's fun. So I'll keep trying to hit that button. Lots of questions about policy and procedure. And as you walk through, I mean, they're fairly easy to answer. Who does your training? What kind of training program do you have? Who has attended actual training classes outside of evidence management? So now we got a couple of questions that are more specific to your evidence operations. How many items do you have in custody? That's an important piece of information. How many locations do you have? What is your estimated storage capacity? This could be a swag. It doesn't have to be an accurate reflection. I'm glad you can't hear the words that I say right after I mute myself every time I hit play on the little video. Um, a couple people can see the screen, can't see the screen. Hopefully you can see the screen. One of the things that we ask are intake and disposition numbers. So hopefully you're able to view and hear me at the same time. Intake and disposition numbers are critical. If you have those before you take the assessment, you're better off. Um, it's really difficult to stop in the middle and pick up again without those numbers. So we'll continue to walk through. We ask about intake processing hours. How long does it take you to do intake? Literally, like hours and minutes. How long does it take you to do intake or perform the intake process, which basically is from collecting evidence and storing evidence at your agency? Who authorizes disposals at your agency? We ask a little bit about technology, like barcode questions and unique identifiers, packaging and labeling and sealing. Um, a lot of those things are part of the survey. I'm just going to let it play because every time I hit pause, it does something weird. And I guess another thing that I want to point out is you do have to scroll down through some of these in order to move on. Hopefully, you can't go forward without answering all the questions. That's because we really need each of these answers in order for it to generate the type of report that it generates. A few more technology and questions. Also, some reporting questions like how long would it take you to generate a detailed report of exactly how many drug items and firearms items that you have stored in your vault? How long would it take you to generate a report of total items in your vault or total currency levels in your vault? These are all really important questions, and the your ability to access that information immediately is really critical in terms of your being able to leverage uh, data to make decisions related to your evidence operations. How long could you generate certain types of forms? So hopefully you're getting an idea of all the types of questions that are involved in this survey. You'll be able to see pretty much everything by the time we're done. And a couple of digital evidence questions. Just try to get an idea of what types of digital evidence are in storage at your agency and where that digital evidence is stored. All this stuff becomes important at some point in the survey with respect to the authentication of digital assets and the storage and retention of digital assets. We'll talk a little bit about security measures, alarm systems, video surveillance, where that video surveillance is uh, placed, and then we talk about security levels for those high liability items like drugs, money, guns, and disposed items. And eventually, we'll get to the end of this thing. A couple more questions. Estimated currency storage levels, that's just always good to know. Offsite storage, how your temporary evidence lockers work, different key access issues like how often do you change keys, how often do you change your or do you verify and look through your card reader access logs. If you've taken one of our classes, you know that card reader access is probably one of the hidden unthought of vulnerabilities. We also talk about sexual assault biological evidence kits and their collection. That's usually a good benchmark that is pretty important across the country. We talk about different accountability practices, and that these questions, I think we can go over the numbers in a little bit. Last inventory, last audit, and then you finish it and you download the report. So I'm not going to make you watch that, but it's going to download the report. And if you want to see a copy of that actual report, there is a handout in your control panel window where you can access the actual report that was generated from this process. And it will show you the actual report that you would receive at your agency about your operations, except this one won't be your operations. Let me go back to our PowerPoint presentation here, and hopefully you can see my screen. Let me go back. So at the end of this, there is a report that's produced, and you can look at that eHealth check report, our copy here at the bottom of the screen as to exactly what you would see. But what you're going to see is you're going to see all of the data that you placed into the assessment, and it's going to be filtered through several different sets of kind of algorithms and metrics and compared to different principles and best practices that we teach here at the Evidence Management Institute. And it's going to digest all that and put it into useful data that you can use to translate to your evidence operations. We actually measure and assess the levels of health of various elements of your operations, and we explain how those measurements work and how they're how we reach those numbers, and we make very specific recommendations based on your answers to things that you need to consider as an agency doing in order to start solving those problems. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. I realize that technically we had some issues here today. Uh, Many of them were pilot error issues on my part, not being able to unmute myself. And I thank the 20 or 30 people that said, can't hear you. You lost your sound is off. That actually was very helpful. I just wish I'd noticed it a little sooner. So this report is generated, and that's what we hope that you will be able to use to leverage that information and bring that back to your chain of command as a valid, impartial, data-driven assessment of your own operations. In law enforcement, and in my career in law enforcement and as a consultant and as a trainer and evidence management trainer, and we do training across the country. I mean, all this comes together, and there are some key truths about that and solving these problems that are pretty universal. If we just complain, it's very difficult to get help if all we bring is a complaint. So what we want to start doing is equipping people not just to complain about the very real things that are wrong in your operation, but let's start bringing solutions to well-defined problems. And if we can bring a solution to a well-defined problem, that's not a complaint anymore. That's a project. That's something we can do. That's something that we can work on. That's something that executive level leaders can wrap their brains around and direct resources to. Complaints, not so much. In law enforcement, complaining is a sport. We do it just for fun, even when we don't have to, even when things are going relatively well. We like to complain. If we will change our focus instead of complaining and bring it towards problem solving as the end state goal and start measuring outcomes and measuring things um, as problems, as issues that be resolved, it's much easier to get executive level leaders and command staff to pay attention and to help resolve and solve the problems with us. Um, One of my favorite languages is liabilities, uh, and liabilities are the absolute language of leadership. What this document does is it spells out your agency's general health relative to your peer cohorts, other agencies in the same boat with you. What we teach at the Evidence Management Institute is very similar in principle and practice. Uh, we're not Our standards and best practices are consistent with every other working body of literature out there. I think we do it differently. So you're going to learn the same thing. These principles are universal. So it's not like this measurement is going to give you the EMI right way to do things compared to another organization's right way of doing things. Justice is justice. Um, Chain of custody is chain of custody. Those things are pretty universal. Now, there is no standardization within law enforcement, but knowing what the right thing to do with evidence can be fairly universal. This document will help you translate all the noise and all the problems into something that is measurable and definable. So hopefully if you get a chance, download the copy that sample copy of the eHealth report, and I might be able to put this video online, just the walkthrough online. Probably we'll do that behind our client page, uh, just to give you an idea of walking through that again. This video will be on our website, even though it's probably pretty unwatchable given the technical issues that we've had. Uh, I'm just looking at the whole webcam thing. That's making me angry. Just looking at it. So let me go through and see if there are any questions other than I can't hear you and I can't see your screen. Hopefully those are working. I don't have as many can't see your screens as I do can't hear you. And I'm hoping, yeah, looking at my little mute button. So any questions about the eHealth check? Has anyone ever, if you've ever used it, if you've got any opinions of it, if you think it's garbage, if you think it's absolutely unhelpful, please let us know. And you can let us all know right here. Um, but we really think that it's a great tool to use. It's like a mini audit at no cost, and no one has to come see your stuff. Um, We're not going to hold you accountable for it. What we will say is that it is only as good as the information that you put in. So if you put in absolute swag numbers, guess what? It's going to return absolute swag numbers. It is not AI. It is not capable of reaching into your own network and pulling out information that doesn't exist. Do you have a couple of questions? What do we talk about when we're talking about rotation of assignment? Well, we're talking about two different rotation of assignments. We're talking about line level evidence custodian, evidence technicians. Do they rotate in and out of the unit like every 3 to 5 years? You see this, it's really common in sworn agencies where people rotate to an assignment, then they rotate out of an assignment. That's what I'm talking about by rotation of assignment. It's much more common in law enforcement for supervisors to rotate in and out. And one of the things that I just think is true about evidence management, evidence custody in general, is that it really takes about 18 months to learn your job. It takes about 18 months to know enough about your job to have some level of competence. So if you're a police department and you rotate supervisors every 3 years, even if they've been diligent and tried to learn their job, at 18 months, they're already on the downhill slide of that assignment. So they're only on good time for about 18 months. That's just not a very sustainable practice. So a couple people have used similar instruments. All right. And we have someone that's actually used it for their evidence room, and it was good data, good, useful information. So thank you for that. So if you have questions after this, if you're using it, now I will say one of the challenges about this particular tool is that it does not lend itself well to jumping in and jumping out. And the reason for that is it's a static website that you reach through a link. I can send you a link that is specific to you, but I have to put you in the system. I'm not opposed to doing that. That way you can save your progress and come back. Um, but then it's kind of you're in the system. So this, in order to really make it transparent and something that you can just use whenever you want, that's not dependent on me. You can download this tool or use this tool at any time from anywhere on any device that has access to the internet, and and you can use it. But if you're having issues, give us a call, or send us an email. We could probably help walk you through it. If you've had some catastrophic failure, we might even be able to recover the data because we do use a system and a service to generate and put these things together. So, so that's a good question. How often can you use the tool? You can use it as often as you'd like. Um, it's probably not something that you'd want to do more than every few years. The answers should be fairly consistent. It's not like an audit where you're going in and really gauging compliance with your own policies and procedures. But thank you, Dana. It's a great question. Yeah, it's available as often as you need it. We would prefer that people limit it to when they need to use it. Uh, not just to use as like a video game, because it would make a very boring video game. But you can use it when you need it. It's not something that will track uses and block you from the system at present. Uh, so you can use it whenever you need it. If it's helpful to you to re-clarify or to add data, maybe do it again, see if things are getting better. Absolutely, it's available to you. And another question, I didn't get the link. Well, you didn't get the link, true, because we didn't put the link in. The link is basically our website. Um, and I'm going to try to go back here and go all the way to the front. Just don't blink. That is the link, evidencemanagement.com. That's our website, www.evidencemanagement.com. If you go to our website, um, on our main page under audits and consulting services, the very first item there is the eHealth check. so you can access it directly from our website right then and there. I think, unless there are any more questions, and just pretend that you're not seeing this slam by the screen. Our next show is, let's see, August 11th. So we'll be back on August 11th. And well, I'm not sure what we're really going to talk about yet, but we got some ideas. So August 11th at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, we will be back talking about something useful and relative to you as an evidence custodian. So please catch us on those dates. After that, September 29th, October 13th, November 17th, and December 15th will round out the year and season 3 of the Evidence Show. Thanks for joining. If you have questions, like I say, give me a call. Reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk to you. Come see us in California or in Oregon or in Georgia or in Ohio at one of our live training certification classes. It's no cost to you. And again, thanks to Tracker Products for keeping the lights on, and we'll see you next month.